So we are back with the letter B. So who have you chosen? Oh,
B
of course.
is for Baldwin, my main man, James Baldwin.
I wouldn't expect anything else, and I would be pretty surprised.
James Baldwin. I could show you all my Baldwin books. I could show you my Baldwin candle.
Let's go for a Baldwin tour. Let's go for a Baldwin tour if you can do it. Let's facilitate a
all right. We're going towards Baldwin.
We're spontaneous here. I love all the peace baskets, by the way. Oh, there you go.
Baldwin candle.
Love it.
To be with the rest of the Baldwin collection because I reorganized. Normally I would have had them all together, but because I reorganized by color. But this is kind of my favorite. These like old, torn straight from the 70s. I got my Baldwin plays. I got essays. I got a book of essays. This is the only brand new one that I haven't read yet. So we'll see about that.
I can't imagine that you have a favorite.
Of Baldwin's?
Mm-hmm.
I have a favorite Baldwin novel for sure.
You do?
I do.
Okay, which one?
It's called Another Country, but I'm not sure. Oh, it's here. His novels are his essays, everything. He's one of the most powerful writers I've ever read. This is my favorite of his novels.
Another Country.
Yeah. So, but with this, the No Name in the Street. So Baldwin, I just YouTube him. Just watch him speak because he just speaks the truth. Like he just gets to the heart of things. There's no, like you can't deny anything he says, but he says it so powerfully and so truthfully. And he did that, in an era where, so if we're going to continue on the theme of racism and colonialism basically rely on denial. People need to pretend that what's happening is not happening, right? People need to pretend that what has happened didn't happen, right? So he just cuts through all that real simply, I don't know how else to put it. But one of the things I appreciate about him is, again, he's very good at humanizing everybody. So like Another Country, all these stories, a lot of his stories are just stories of America. Like he really writes about the United States in a very intimate way. How do I put it that? Mm-hmm. And, in this book, there's like queer, interracial couples, all kinds of people, but like, when was it set? Maybe in the 50s or 60s or 70s. Mm-hmm. So just very the complications of how people's intimate relationships, how it relates to the broader society they're in. But in his novels, he just really, he gets to the heart of who people are. So that but his essays, he gets to the heart of like how society is, right? And the kinds of lies people tell to themselves. So one of the favorite things that he's made clear for me is, we talk about racism as if it's a problem for Black communities or Asian communities or Indigenous communities, but he's like, you can't live white people cannot live happily in a racist society. Like it takes it's damaging to their psyches also. So he talks about a lot of that, like denying the humanity of those around you, you cannot be at peace. Like, you can have monetary privilege, but you're not at peace. So the line that I selected is one of my favorite lines whenever I engage with people who irritate me or who do messed up things or whatever. I'm just looking for it. He says, what does he say? And it's in this book. It's a No Name in the Street. He says, people pay for what they do and still more for what they have allowed themselves to become. And they pay for it very simply by the lives they lead. So, he's basically saying to be a racist, you have turned yourself into a monster. Like, no, there's no racist, there's no rapist, there's no abuser, there's nobody who diminishes other people that has any capacity to love themselves. Like if you have to generate that much hatred or that much disrespect or that much denial, like if you're even somebody who like I'll use an example that's even relatable. Like if you're somebody who can walk by a person who's homeless and not give a fuck, and that's many of us, you've lost your humanity there. There's something less human about you, less caring, less loving. Like the part of you that does not care anymore, you've lost something, right? Little children still have it, but you know, most of us. So he's saying, you know, what you do. So, you know, a lot of times for me, like, oh, I'm resisting oppression every day in different ways, whoever does whatever. And you get frustrated because all of the oppressive people keep maintaining, you know, all the corporate billionaires have like quadrupled their profits during the pandemic era. You know, they stay winning, it looks like. But he's like, no, I think what he's saying is, no, what they do pay for it. And they pay for it in terms of what they've become. And they pay for it in terms of, very simply, in terms of the lives that they lead. So I just remember that because I'm like, you know what? You know who's not stressed about racism? Actually, me. Like, I'm good. Like, I'm not out here making other people feel less than anything. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not out here diminishing another human being for me to live my life. So, you know, all the gazillions, but we could all see he's a miserable man.
Wow. I can see how you pull that one out every time you're talking to an idiot.
No, like, you think you won by being harmful? Like, but you're a miserable person. Like, how happy can you be, you know?
Yeah.
What kind of life can you possibly lead if you can have all the money in the world, but like...
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why most of the time I feel like individuals like that have these compounds, these massive large spaces to just distance themselves from humanity because they're no longer a part of humanity. It's a different world for them, right? It's they are not living lives, and so they have to go and buy these massive properties in order to just feel like us. I don't know. That's my theory on massive islands and things of that nature. It's escapism, right? You can't run from it though. No matter what.
There's nowhere to go.
No.
So you still have to. And I think that's one of the things I like about him is he's like, in fact, like I think there's a line where he's like, you know, Americans produced the Negro because there was so much terror of like their own intimate lives, like in not being able to be with your own pain and your own fear. You need to project it outwards and create, you know, an object to distance yourself from your own humanity, your own pain, your own fear, right? Like I remember, you know, a professor asking our class at one point when I was in my master's, she was writing about how prison guards basically like torment Indigenous people in custody in Canada, right? So he's like, it's actually a Vancouver story. I think it's a Vancouver story, but it was the story of an Indigenous man who was found with a boot print on his chest and he was dead, right? Like after being in police custody. And she asked, you know, why would this guy want to put his boot on the guy's chest? Like, why would you do that? And my instinctive answer was, because you're not the one with the boot on your chest, right? Like, so this whole exercise of power is about, like, a lot of it is about, I want the power. I'm in power and I'm terrified of being vulnerable. I'm terrified of being the victim. So I'm going to exercise all of this power to prove to myself that I'm so powerful. Like it's a race against your own mortality. It's a race against your own vulnerability. And that like, and it's at the core of it, it's like a fear of being with your damn self. Like, so anyway, there's a lot, but I like Baldwin because he kind of pulls out the psychological, he weaves the psychological, the political, the personal, the national, you know? And
so in addition to being Black History Month, they say this is the month of love, and maybe that's all capitalism and you know, all the fluff, but when you were first introduced to Baldwin, first of all, was it someone that gave you a book or was it a discovery on your own?
I don't remember who gave it to me or how I found it, but I think I was in my late teens. And it was more because he writes a lot about love. Like he writes a lot about romantic relationships and people's relationships, period. And it was like how he really got to the heart of like people's internal pain, people's drama with each other, like people's, how it all worked with the society they lived in. Like he just really, he gets to the heart and like the psyches of people in a way that I don't think any other author at all, period, does. And so number one, it's his novels and how he tells the stories of human beings and their relationships. And then his essays are just, they're fire, pure fire. Every single word he says. I could quote that man like all day. Because you just tell the people to watch his YouTube James Baldwin.
I've gone down the rabbit hole. Everyone needs to go and tune in, but I do recommend read the books first. Go to your library. There's always a hold. I don't think I've ever had a non-wait list for a Baldwin book at my library that's up the street. There's always a wait time. But you know what? It's worth the wait always. And then I always keep it for way too long. I'm that person. So thank you so much. We just did the letter B, James Baldwin. Get familiar if you're not. This essential reading. You were going to add one more thing. I was
going to say there's a few more B's though. Unfortunately, like the next two are B's.
Let's do some more B's.